Welcome to We Are Black Journos podcast, episode 3. This is super exciting. This is our first time visualizing this podcast. Again, it's a way to continue our work to celebrate and highlight the work of amazing Black journalists. And I am so super excited to be joined by not one, but 2 of them. Obviously, in the description, you'll find more work and information about the incredible work that they do. Because if I listed, we will legit be here all day. So I guess I'll just hand it over to them to introduce themselves. So I'll hand it over to this lovely lady first.
Hi, my name is Funmi Olutoye, and I'm a multimedia journalist that works primarily in television. At the moment, I'm freelancing in places like ITV This Morning. Sometimes I bounce around to Good Morning Britain. I write for The Independent occasionally and other places as well.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Habiba Katsha. I'm a freelance journalist. I'm a freelancer, so I've written for numerous publications such as iNews Independent, Galdem, Black Ballad, all of that good stuff, and I usually write about race, gender, and mental health.
Amazing. So the thing is, this isn't an interview. It's literally just a conversation between the 3 of us as 3 Black female journalists. I've heard using the term female is a bit political, but anyway. In this time and in this space, how would you say being a Black journalist and a woman, is it empowering, or would you say it kind of comes with its many cons rather than pros?
What a loaded question.
Yeah, I have a habit of doing that.
I think with anything, as a Black female, in any arena of life, you're going to be faced with many challenges, and challenges that are maybe above and beyond what other people and other groups will face. I think in this day and age, there's a heightened awareness of the fact that there are marginalised groups. Arguably, the 3 of us are part of 2 marginalised groups, being a woman and being Black. However, even though there's a heightened awareness, I don't know if there is still much progress, because I've seen, especially in the last year, after George Floyd, etc., there's been a lot of lip service. Whether that lip service actually turns into actual, tangible results or tangible change is a different story. And I feel that, yes, it's only been a year, so it's hard to kind of, monitor and quantify results so quickly. I think a year is still enough time to kind of see at least small changes. And I think Black squares on Instagram is not necessarily enough.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I think definitely we are facing challenges. There are pros, there are cons, but as ever, there's a long way to go.
There is. And, as you just mentioned, Habiba, in your intro, you do speak about, both of you, in the incredible work that you've produced, many of the issues that do affect the Black community. Do you feel like this, when things like this happen with, the murder of George Floyd and the Black squares and the conversations that you see on your timeline, and then suddenly it's back to normal, how does that make you feel as someone that writes about stories, particularly within the Black community?
Yeah, I'd say it's similar to what Funmi was saying, because it was interesting. Like I always say, when I speak about journalism, I always speak about pre the death of George Floyd and post the death of George Floyd, because I remember as it was happening, so many journalists were coming out about mentorships, and if you're a Black journalist, DM me, la 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 la. I was like, oh, this is new. But literally from July to September, I haven't been commissioned so much in my life. It was really weird, because I was like, I'm happy that I'm getting commissioned, but I'm getting commissioned off of the death of a Black man. Ooh. And like you can literally see from my portfolio from July to September the amount of places that commissioned me to write about Black stories. I was just like, this is good and everything, but it shouldn't have taken the death of a Black man for you to realise that our stories are important. Mm. And as Funmi said, it's been a lot of lip service, because I feel like, not even in the journalism space, but I feel like there's a lot of diversity schemes in like journalism, but they can't retain Black people because the experiences of working in journalism is so difficult for so many people. So yeah, it's like a year on, and there's been like small changes, but there haven't been actually really real tangible results, because I feel like if they do want to get more black people in journalism, I think they just have to scrap the whole thing and start again.
Yeah, because you mentioned something just then about it hasn't been working. You know, what do you mean by that? That's quite interesting, because there is a push. Like at We Are Black Journos, we're always getting requests from people specifically saying, wow, we see that you have a hub of black journalists, you're in communication with them. Can we put our job ads in your newsletter? And I say, absolutely. Like, it's great. Like, you know, first of all, we'll have an initial conversation just to sort of get their understanding of what they understand diversity and inclusion to be. And then how I see it is there's a need, but then there's one thing putting the interest out there, but when it comes to the black journalists applying for these positions and getting it, why isn't it working? I want to know that.
I think there's two reasons. I think one, a lot of the people that are hiring journalists don't understand that black people don't have the resources and knowledge that other white people might have. So for example, a lot of black people that I know that are journalists aren't NSTG trained. So you'll tell black people to apply for the job, they apply for it, but they're not NSTG trained, so you're not going to give them that job. But compared to maybe a white middle class person,
you mean NCTJ?
Yes,
right?
Yeah. Sorry.
And that's the National Council of the Training of Journalists.
Yeah.
I don't have one. Do you have one?
Yeah, no. That's another.
Okay.
That's another topic.
But then, having said that, I had to borrow money from my uncle to do it.
Yeah.
How
So
much
imagine.
is it to do
So
it?
at the time when I did it, which is 11 years ago now, it was like about 3,500
For the year?
Yeah, for the year. In fact, it wasn't for the year. It was a 20-week fast track course.
Wow.
So that was like basically from September to January.
£3,500.
Yeah. But I think it's probably a bit more now. And I actually teach on a course now that teaches NCCJ at a college part-time. Don't ask me how much it is, I don't know. But, you know, again, if I look at all my students, I've only had one student that was black in all the time I've been teaching.
And
And
how long
I've
has
taught
that
in two
been?
colleges now. That's about 4 years.
Yeah, because like black.
There's been a couple of Asian people,
Mm.
but mostly white. And obviously, as you said, Habiba, it's resources, it's knowledge, it's money.
So people don't know. So there's also that. So that's why I say you might have to scrap the whole thing and start again, because there's like this whole big debate whether or not if you should do it NSTG as a journalist, but that's a whole other thing. So there's that. But then after you hire the black person, it's the black person doesn't feel welcome in those spaces because they're the only black person in the room. They can't relate to things that people are saying. The stories aren't being heard. There's a lot of microaggressions, so it's just like, why would I want to work in this place? Like, even though a lot of us have worked with really amazing publications and organisations, our experiences haven't been great. So I think it's a twofold thing, because there's so many times where I wanted to apply for things, they're like, oh yeah, like, you need to have like one TV credit, and I was like, well, I don't have one, so
what
where
happens
do
now?
we go from here?
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's really interesting. And like, I guess it's either we've had that experience of being the only one or facing a microaggression or just feeling like you don't fit in, or we know someone who definitely has. Do you mind telling me an experience about when you clearly felt like the only one, either, you know, faced a microaggression or just any other?
Oh, there's been so many. I'm trying to think of where to start.
Yes.
I think definitely I had a job that was where I had to move to another part of the country. In fact, that contract meant I had to move to different parts of the country, but there was one
I'm already nervous.
one time, basically I had to leave London.
Yeah.
Which in itself, obviously, you know, you have the safety and the confines of the M25 where we're all here as black people. So you venture out into this, like, you know, at the time feels like this wonderful mystical land of outside the M25. And I was excited, to be honest. I was like, you know, I want to see outside of London. You know, there's more to the UK than just London, right? So I was excited to go, but, you know, when I was there, I felt extremely alone because not only was I from another part of the country and already there was a bit of a microaggression, forget being a female, forget being black, even just the fact that you're a Londoner, there was a bit of a microaggression there, like, you know, you're coming here, you think you're
better than us.
And meanwhile, I was junior upon junior, so I was just there to listen and just take it in. I wasn't trying to put on any airs and graces at all. If anything, I was trying to tell them, I don't know anything. I'm here as a junior, you teach me, kind of thing. And yeah, throughout the time I was there, I felt there were so many microaggressions in terms of, you know, being like left out and not being included, not given appropriate, you know, tools or resources to do the job that I was asked to do. And when I asked them, please, I need this, it was a bit of pushback. But meanwhile, others that were in other regions, so to speak, were having a plethora of things at their fingertips to actually, you know, perform well and do the stuff that needed to do. So, you know, there were things like that. And I think, you know, it's so hard to prove intent, right? You don't know if it's intentional. You don't know if they're just not aware. Because I think a lot of the times it's about the lack of awareness rather than the intentionality, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I think at the time, I just didn't know what it was. I just felt like I just wasn't included. I don't understand why. You know, I'm here to really learn. And I love the fact that I'm outside of London. But I just did not feel included. And I feel that, you know, if there was someone there who kind of took me by the wing and was like, look, I know that you're out of place. I know that you feel this way. This is how we can get around it. I would have felt much better. Truth be told, I did actually have someone like that, but they weren't based in that newsroom. They were kind of like someone that was based in the headquarters in London or maybe another part of the country. But anyway, just not there. And so they would occasionally give me a pep talk. But, you know, I was like, but you're not here. And because you're not here, you're not understanding how tough it is for me. And I don't know if I told you, Habiba, but, you know, for me at the time, I felt like I completely lost my confidence. Completely. I went into that newsroom, you know, guns blazing, all, you know, so much, you know, energy and hope in terms of growing as a journalist, and especially because you're fresh out of university. But being there, I totally lost my confidence to the point where it was like, it took years to get it back. In fact, I even said to someone the other day, I was like, I don't think I've actually got back to the same point of that confidence, even now. And that's like 8-9 years ago. Do you know what I mean? So anytime I talk to my mentees or any other person, I'm always like, as much as possible, do not lose your confidence. You'll be tried, you'll be tested, you'll be pushed to the wall, but do not do that, or try your best not to do that. If you do, get it back as quick as you can. So, I mean, there's been so many, but for me, that's the biggest one, because actually that was the one that hit me the hardest, because up until that point, I had never really experienced it, so to speak.
How interesting, because you mentioned the whole idea of someone taking you under their wing, which is great. I love to have my hand held, especially when starting something new. But it's interesting that I get the impression that it wouldn't have mattered if that person was white or black.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, as long as they're obviously aware. Yeah. Exactly.
I just needed someone to understand. And it's funny because I spoke to someone who was in that position, same position, but the year before. And I tried to explain, I was like, did you see this? And did you experience that? And da-da-da-da. And she just was not, she was just like, I don't know, like, I was quite right there, and da-da-da-da. And I was thinking...
Yeah, I've heard of stories like these, and the nickname I'll give it is Sunken Place. But we'll get onto that later. What about you, Habiba?
I was working at one publication. This is like a really short story. So it was like, I had a snack, so I had like chin chin. I'm not even Nigerian, but I love chin chin.
This is not going to end well.
So I just had chin chin, and then my manager came up to me, she said, what is that? And it's like dog food. I was like,
you're joking.
It's chin chin. And then she was just, and she tried it, she was like, oh, it actually tastes really nice. And I was thinking, yeah. So
why would I be eating dog food?
Yeah, so rude. And this was like very, very early on. So yeah, after that I was just like, oh, I can't speak to these things or speak to people. Or like when this is the small things, this is a bit funny and I think ironic. But there'd be like a company Spotify, so everybody play music. When I came to play Wizkid, people would turn it down. I said, oh.
This is the reception beginning now.
It wasn't even full on pure Afrobeat. It was calm Afrobeat. People would turn the music down. I said, oh, this is a bit cheeky. You don't like Wizkid? Like...
So I just thought of another one. Can I tell you another one?
Yeah.
So this is one actually that I was just like, wow. So one time, I can't remember what me and this colleague were talking about, but somehow I got into the topic of the fact that, because I went to boarding school for sixth form, so I said to her, oh yeah, that happened to in my boarding school, whatever. And she looked at me and she went,
Stop.
And I was like, oh yeah, I went for like sixth form, just for A-levels and stuff. And she went, scholarship, I suppose.
What? That happened to my sister.
And I looked and I was like, no. And she was like, oh. Well, I guess if you had your time again, you could apply for Stormzy scholarship.
Stop it!
This happened to me like just a few years ago. I looked at her, I was in absolute dismay. I was like,
so
what?
Rude.
I promise you.
And the thing is with microaggressions, because you don't expect someone to say it to you, it's really, when you're thinking back, you're like, I should have said X, Y, Z, but you're literally
perplexed.
so shocked.
Yeah.
I had something quite similar. I feel like we could do this all day. But I was working at one
It's
place.
sad that we can.
I was working at one place, and then the person, this was straight after uni, so the person asked me, what did you do your thesis on? I said, I did it about media appropriation of grime music. Essentially, my argument was, now that grime music is listened to by the white middle class, it's represented quite positively. And then he said, I used to do bike rides from somewhere to Streatham, and I used to listen to the radio, and then when it would turn into grime, it's quite violent. Don't you think that's quite violent? I was like, yeah, sometimes. And then, like, another one I remember is I was writing about, I forgot the name of this black person. He was a black boy, he died, he passed away from, like, the police in the UK. And I wanted to write about how white people in the UK are colourblind. And the person editing the piece said that it's a bit of a stretch. I said, okay. I was like, that's interesting.
Anything else constructive coming from that feedback, or?
No, it was just like, it was a bit of a stretch to say that white people
Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, literally. And that was like my first time pitching, so that's when I knew I was like, I can't really...
And it's quite a biased thing to say, isn't it? Because obviously that's a white person commissioning that, so therefore they're...
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think it's worse because I'm sure a lot of places that we've worked are quite left-leaning, so it's even worse. So you have an expectation that everyone here is progressive, but they can be...
They cannot, because they can still kind of objectify you. And I would say with mine, nothing too bad. I do change my hair quite a bit, and I just remember being in the middle of work. This was probably about a good 5-6 years ago, and being asked how I did my hair. And I wasn't in a mood or anything of that sort, but I guess it was a reactive thing to turn around and say, just search it up on YouTube. And then I just turned back. Because I think it's just, I'm not going to be that representative. I'm not going to be that poster girl. If you're really that curious and you genuinely want to know, I don't need to be the spokesperson for it. I don't braid my hair. So just go to the best person that can. But I guess that was just kind of like a lucky way for me to respond. Because as you rightly said, Habiba, like, it is just so normal. Just to be in a state of shock because, sorry, I'm still screaming internally at the Stormzy scholarship thing.
I don't actually know what offended me more. The fact that she didn't believe I went to boarding school, or the fact that
What is the fact that she opened her mouth when you said boarding school? She was in shock.
But then also because she also knows I'm in my 30s, so that kind of suggestion of going to university again and applying for a Stormzy scholarship, I was just like, what are you trying to do? Do you know what I mean? Like,
her maths wasn't mathing.
So,
Literally.
I mean, she's just trying to make a point. Yeah.
That's so silly. She's trying to say anything.
And also, as you can imagine, I'm sure Habiba, you feel this way. As a freelancer, you definitely can't rock the boat because if you rock the boat too much,
what do you
mean?
Again.
Yeah.
No, what do you mean?
Exactly. You're not going to get paid, so it's...
But like rocking the boat, saying something controversial, dragging someone's name,
or just speaking up, or just saying anything that potentially could make people be like, you just don't want to do it because if you
have an example?
I'm trying to think of an example.
Same. Or do you mean like saying something controversial about an organisation that you've worked with and knowing that you'll immediately be blacklisted, or in terms of what you've written about journalistically or produced?
The former.
Right.
And also just being in the newsroom in general, like even as you're relating or whatever, you just don't want to say anything that may be perceived out of turn, because if you do,
they won't book you again.
I mean, they have no rights to you, right? They can just stop booking you.
Yeah, they'll be like, don't book Black Panther again. Oh, no. Because that's probably what some of them are thinking as well, Yeah. And if we just look back, going to get quite historical and quite googly here, but, okay, let's just take the British Broadcasting Organisation. We already know the acronym for that one. Founded in 1927. By a man whose name I cannot remember, but he was an old rich white man. And when it came to his first, cohort of staff, it was people exactly like him. And it was like that for decades and decades and decades until we had our first, black newsreader on radio who was Maurice Stewart, to other organisations. We had Trevor McDonald at ITV, he started on quite early, and then we had our Charlene Whites and or Duba in sport, and it was growing and growing and growing. And even with this emergence of, seeing more faces that look like us, do you sometimes question if this industry was designed for people that look like us, even with the progression? Do you get those reminders of that systemic way that, this industry was born was not made for people that look like me?
Yeah, I think we've spoken about this, but I feel like I look at like BET and I'm like, we need to have this in the UK because I think it's just better, and I think that's why I like content creation, because I feel like black people do so much better doing content creation because it's authentic. Because when sometimes black content creators do go on like the mainstream publications, it's always a watered down version of what it's supposed to be.
What do you mean?
I mean, like, sometimes, I'm trying to think of an example, but sometimes there'll be like a comedy sketch show and then a TV company will buy it, and then when it comes to the second season, it's just not what it was like on YouTube, because they know that it's going to be to a mainstream white audience.
Right.
So yeah, I think about that often. And I feel like we need to have something quite similar to BET, so where we can kind of be like quite unfiltered, rather than like this idea of like taking up space, because I don't know if we can, and if we can, it's going to take years.
And what would that look like to take up space as well? Like, you just mentioned mainstream TV. I think of Big Nasty when he had his show on mainstream TV, and he was like the same Big Nasty that I've seen on YouTube,
but even
on Instagram.
With that, though,
but there have been questions about that.
I don't know the production stuff behind Big Nasty, right? But I'd be interested to know if Big Nasty and Mo the Comedian were the only ones on that whole team, as in terms of the front facing. Because obviously, as we know in television, the presenters look like they have the power, but really they don't. It's the producers that have the power.
They're just being told what to do.
Yeah, and so, for example, it's all well and good having two black faces that you have as a newsreader, that you have as a presenter, whatever. But actually, who is making those editorial decisions is the producers. And if you only have, if you only have, say, for example, all white people in that room, how can you possibly get other viewpoints or other sides of the story from different communities, if that makes sense? So I don't know the production staff of that show, but I would love to know if there are black people on that team, and I don't just mean in terms of in the technical side, but actually in the editorial decision side. Yeah. Because that's where the power is. That's where the corridors of power are when it comes to journalism. Yeah. Those are the ones who are making decisions and saying, we're going to have this story, we're not going to have that story. Mm-hmm. That's important, you know. So that for me, that's where we would see the change. Once we see not just slapping someone in front of a TV and saying it's the presenter, but actually that black person or that Asian person or that person of colour is the editor or is the senior producer or is the junior producer, so on and so forth. Yeah, that's why publications like Geldon work so well, because it's like people of colour writing and people of colour editing. So like when I've written for them, it's different to when I'm writing for a white publication, because I can say specific things and the audience will understand what I'm saying. And the person commissioning it, they get it. Exactly. Like I remember one time I wanted to pitch something about a situationship and the editor was like, what's a situationship? And I was like, I was like, oh my dear. So yeah, I definitely think, as Funmi said, it's about getting people behind the scenes, because I think that's sometimes more important. Because I remember I was watching, like, this is a bit random, I was watching the reunion of like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and they said the reason why that show did so well is because like every single week the black cast would talk about the things that would and would not happen in black culture. So they wanted to put an episode in where Ashley spoke back to her dad, and everyone said that would not happen in the black community. Like, if that happened, she would get a slap in the face, sort of thing. So I feel like it's important to actually have black people behind the scenes as well as in the front. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And, when I pose that question, it's being very optimistic. Like, I'm a super optimistic person. That's why, I see it as progression. Baby steps are still moving forward, and knowing that it started in one place, and now I can, turn on the news, whether it's early in the morning or the afternoon news or 10 o'clock, and I will see someone like Charlene White, for example. I'll see Claudia Lisa Armour, or Vanessa Baffo, and that is just amazing. Not that I have to go at a certain time or, about to nod off, and
sort of see them. And to be honest, that's in so many industries. Super random. This morning at 7:30 a.m. I was playing tennis. I haven't played it in years. It was absolutely amazing. It was just such a thrilling kind of thing. And I immediately thought of these four names that have just sort of been ringing in our heads and on our timelines. And I don't even need to say it. Tennis, names. Give me one name that
Serena
comes.
Williams.
Boom.
Naomi.
Venus Williams.
There's one more. She's a teenager. Crazy.
Coco
Coco Golf.
Coco Golf, yeah, that's what I was
Golf,
thinking,
which is
her name.
insane. And it's like, again, it's the same kind of thing. Systemically, black women were not given, such an incredible platform to be on the US Open or French Open, simply because it just wasn't part of the system. So I love how we're just always celebrating that. But can I ask, do you get a little bit tired of, the first? She's the first black woman to do this. Daniel Kaluuya is the first black Brit to win an Oscar. Does that get a bit jarring?
You know what? I'm in two minds about that because it does get jarring. Don't get me wrong. However, I'm also acutely aware of the fact that Rome was not built in a day. We have to remember that our parents were all of African background here. Most of our parents came sometime between the 60s and the 80s. So really, this is kind of the first generation to kind of divulge into these kind of industries where white people have dominated so much, so to speak. So we also have to be very realistic. Change is, as you said, is gradual and is baby steps. As much as we'd like to take leaps and bounds, these are great, huge institutions that have existed for almost 100 years, like the BBC. And we have to also be realistic. So yes, it's annoying in 2021 that we're still having first this and first that. But I think we should still celebrate these things because, it could be the flip side, and we could be in another country where these things are not happening at all. Mm-hmm. The bananas are still being thrown at footballers on football pitches, So we have to also be, understand and be grateful of what has happened so far. Yeah. However, yes, on the flip side of that, it does jar me, and I wish we could push a bit more and take greater leaps and bounds. But at the same time, we should be proud of where we come from, in the same breath.
I think about this a lot because I feel like me and my friends always speak about generational wealth because we're like, we want generational wealth, but we don't want to be the ones to start it. We want to be the ones to benefit from it. Yeah. So I often think about it from for example, Diana Abbott was the first black female MP. And after all the things that she went through, if I meet her, I'd want to say, do you think this is all worth it? If you knew what you were going to go through, would you still be in this position? Because the way she gets slandered, it's absolutely crazy. So I always think about the fact that I might be the first to do something, and I'm just I'm sure it'll be worth it, but it also feels like it's really tiring. Yeah. If that makes sense, to have to carry that burden of, especially doing things right as well. Yeah. So yeah.
Can I ask, so coming into this career path, would you say that you're here and you're doing it and you're thriving because you love being a journalist, or is it more so I want to do this for the next I want them to see that? Because some people genuinely are more passionate about their jobs because they want to advocate for something, or they want to, be the face, or let other people know I'm doing it, so can you. That's genuinely what drives people. Or is it just purely I come here to work, this is it?
I think for me, my love-hate relationship with journalism has changed many times over the years. And I think when I first started and into my mid-20s, I was very much like that. I was like, I'm a crusader. I'm going to bring more black people on TV. I'm going to put more black people behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. And part of me is still thinks that and still wants that. But at the same time, this industry can grind on you, and it can it can wear you out. So I'm very much at the stage where, I'm still like, I'm still in journalism, I'm still enjoying it because it's something I've always wanted to do since I was a teenager. But whether I'm that same crusader that I was, 7-8 years ago is a different story. But then having said that, as I've said to you, Habiba, in our chats, I'm very much push you in terms of don't depend on big organisations, do your own thing, create your own stuff, do your own platforms. I'm a big advocate of that. And that's something I would want to do actually going forward. I don't know how much change can be made in massive corporations anymore. I think there's definitely a place for that in terms of there are people who will help to push that agenda so that those who want to come with corporations can do. But I think our next stage now is the generation who are kind of enjoying the fruits of the Gary Youngs, etc. We have now the responsibility to create platforms like the next BET or the next GRM Daily, etc., so that journalists after us can bear enjoy the fruits of what we have sown in the ground. So for me, the crusade now is no longer the big corporations. For me, it's about what can we do that is for us, by us.
Yeah.
And that's not in terms of exclusivity now, because I don't necessarily believe in exclusivity. I think it's just about being original and being true to the creativity, so that it's not watered down.
Yeah, definitely. I think I would echo what Funmi said in terms of like, I think when I got into it, I was just like, yeah, I need to work at XYZ, but now I'm just like, I want to do things for myself, for our community, and still get paid. I think that's the caveat, because of course everyone can make content, but listen, we're not working for free anymore.
No,
we're not
sorry.
working for free. So I think I'm very concerned with the stories I want to tell, and like I want the stories I tell to kind of be like in the canon of like Black British work, because there's so many Black British like articles and documentaries that I still kind of recite in my mind. So I think that's what's important to me.
Yeah, and even just talking about the work that you create, you've both written amazing pieces that's on a similar topic. So for me, it was for Metro about the pressure to not get married, and learning about the importance of dating to marry. That was for Refinery 29, right? Amazing write-ups. You were speaking to me. And the incredible thing about it is that so many people relate, right? I saw the comments on your write-up and the tweets that were accumulated based on that. And did you ever imagine that, your writing would be so personal? Because it is quite personal in a sense. Like there's, like with news, there's so many things that we can just gush out straight away. Like it can be reactive news or something that inspires you, but putting yourself out there, was that something that you always kind of saw yourself doing?
I don't think so. I think as I've like grown as a freelancer, my writing has like kind of changed. I feel like as I grew as a writer, I was like, I want to write about this. I don't see people doing that. Like I really like news stories. So like with the Dating to Marry one, like I was pleasantly surprised at how many people were kind of reaching out to me, and I'm sure it was a lot of Christian group chats. Some people were triggered. Yeah. Some people were triggered. But I think those are the stories that I want to do and the conversations that I think are important. And now I think publications are realising that you can, a story from a marginalised group can still be popular, because I was even speaking about this today. Like I remember last year I wrote about like Black influencers and how they're getting shortchanged by brands, and that got like 1 million impressions, and like Jackie Aina commented it, and I was like, that was like my goal of life.
We love Jackie.
Yeah, so like I think it's definitely been like a journey of just finding the stories I want to tell and all that stuff.
I definitely didn't, coming from a television news background, because we were told, don't put your personality out there, don't give out your opinions, it's got to be completely unbiased. And so I was very used to just reporting, and that was it, and just dealing with news stories as they were, never kind of putting your voice in it or in it in any way. So for me, becoming a freelancer and starting to kind of put my voice in here and do features and op-eds that, give my opinion, I'm kind of straying away from news now, and I'm like, oh my god, like nice. Can I let go kind of thing? But I think I pretty much have let go now. I don't think I can ever go back to news reporting with all my opinions out there. So I definitely didn't know. But I've enjoyed kind of talking about things, because actually it makes the writing easier. It just flows out because it's what you think and it's how you feel. And then obviously you can do your research to kind of back up what you're saying. So I didn't, but I'm enjoying it.
It's amazing because it's like, and it's a blessing. If someone was to Google your full names, they are spoiled for I'm gonna put all their details, so you already know. You are spoiled for choice on the incredible variation of content that's coming out of both of you. And it's a really interesting time to be a journalist now. I mean, it's also very interesting to be a Black journalist now. I'm sure you both definitely get emails and messages like, I really want to do this and I really want to do that, from a lot of aspiring budding journos. How can one get themselves out there in a time of a pandemic? Like, people are itching to do work experience, they're willing to do it for free. They literally just want to have a foot in the door. They want contacts, they want to network effectively. They want to be amazing journalists like you two. So how can they do that?
Well, one thing I always tell my mentees is, don't wait for that kind of big job or big foot in the door. Often those so-called big jobs or big foot in the door comes to you when you create your own stuff. Because, for example, if I give an example, when I work at This Morning, often a lot of kind of stuff that we put on there is stuff that's become viral on social media already. So this, like a particular video that's blowing up, the editor, the news editor will say, oh, let's get her on, that kind of thing. So imagine if you take that same principle, but within the job market, it's the same thing. So if you're out there doing bits and doing all your kind of bits and pieces in terms of writing or radio or podcast or news or whatever, that will stand you in better stead rather than someone who's just come fresh out of uni. Oh, I've got my NCTJ but done absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. So I always encourage people, do your own thing. I know it costs money and I know it's not easy, but actually that's where you can make your mistakes as well. So that when you do get into big organisations, you don't make, unnecessarily silly mistakes that you could have learned outside as well, and then they will paint you with the same brush because you're black and da-da-da-da-da. So, I think it's worth kind of venturing out on your own prior to so-called getting a big job.
Yeah, I would agree. Specifically for writing, I would say I always tell people who want to get into it, just start a blog.
Yes.
Start writing about like niche things. I'm putting it on Instagram and Twitter. I think that's the best way because that's how I kind of got started, and then I realised I can pitch to people, so I just start writing.
I love that. Yeah, just sort of like creating a portfolio, because it's the same way that, you may not have an article on the Metro Refinery 29 yet, but if someone Googles your name, search engine optimization, they will be able to see stuff that you've produced and therefore get a better idea of, what you're into and stuff. So just loving all the gems and tips, ladies. I want to play a game.
Okay.
It's called Two Truths and One Lie.
Oh, I love this game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's journalism edition. Woo! Okay? Journalism edition. 2 things that are true, 1 that's a lie, and we have to guess what the lie is.
Oh, that's hard.
Okay. So I will go first.
And it can be anything to do with journalism.
Yeah.
About our career or just about our career?
Your career. Yeah,
okay.
So it has to be a personal kind of experience.
That's hard.
Okay.
I think I've got one.
I couldn't think of one.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I got them. If I think too much, it's just coming. Wait. No, don't lose them. Okay. Alright, so my 2 truths and a lie. The first one, I've pretty much spoken negatively about Trump on air. It went out on air. I was in a lift with Samuel L. Jackson, had an amazing conversation with him in the lead up to a documentary he released with Afro Hirsch. And I once shouted out, Willy Wonka, in the newsroom. With like over 200 people there.
I think the lie is the Willy Wonka one.
Okay, Willy Wonka.
I didn't lie the Willy Wonka one.
It is! I am so annoying! So you actually think that I would speak about Trump on air? It's true.
Of course.
It's true. But it wasn't anything like talking about how horrible his skin is or his hair or, or anything like that. But there was an ad, basically his family were offering free dinners out to like rich families in India who were donating to the fund. So my co-president asked me, Hannah, would you go on a dinner date with the Trumps? I said, hell no. And then that was pretty much it.
Really not that bad.
Yeah, but my editor came up to me and said, you need to understand as an organisation. And his face was getting so red. And the thing is, because it had already been done, I just said, sorry. And then I just left. I didn't feel bad about it at all. Anyway, who wants to go next?
I can go next.
You go next?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Habiba.
I've written for The Guardian.
Okay.
I've interned at Elle. I've asked Oprah Winfrey a question.
Wow.
Ooh.
Oprah's real, I think, because she came to London and so many sisters met her, which was amazing.
Yeah, I think Oprah's real.
I think Oprah's definitely real. And what a moment. My goodness. It's not every day you can say that, okay? Oh, no, but how did you ask her a question? Oh, no, wait, you said that you've met her.
Maybe so.
Or was she virtually?
Because she could have tweeted her like, yo, Oprah, what's good?
Yeah.
Maybe.
What'd you have for breakfast today?
Maybe.
Guardian. God, I did Googles on you. Did I see Guardian? Oh.
I don't remember you mentioning Guardian to me. So I feel like maybe Guardian might be...
Yeah, Elle is quite possible. Elle, I think, is possible, yeah. I think Guardian is the lie.
It is.
Okay, last but not least.
Okay. So, I once had to go live on TV with absolutely no makeup and no notes.
Oh my gosh.
And it was last minute. And the second one is Jerry Halliwell once told me she liked my suit. And the third one is I once had to sleep over at a celebrity's house because we missed the last train.
Ooh. Oh my god, that would actually be so lit.
It's either the going live on TV with no makeup or sleeping at a celebrity's house. I'm trying to figure out.
That makeup one, I've
That's
been there
mad.
and that was, it was annoying.
That's mad.
We've been there.
I feel like it's real because you're giggling.
Yeah, and you got good skin though. You got good skin, so I'm sure you were glowing. And like working in TV means that you work under pressure, so that one is definitely true. Jerry Halliwell.
I believe that one.
Which one was she? Sporty Spice, right?
Ginger.
Ginger.
Yeah.
Right.
I believe that. I can imagine her saying that to you.
I like your suit. Yeah, because it's just like a past. Oh, I like your suit.
Okay, I'm going to go with the celebrity one. I think that's the lie.
Oh, the sleepover one.
Yeah.
No. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is.
Ah!